Hello, parents, grandparents, future parents, and curious minds. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Steven.
And I'm PJ.
And this is Dadsdiscuss.
We might have to cut that one and put in a different one, or just keep it as that. We are a little rusty, folks. Glad to have you back on the podcast. Both myself and Steven have been unable to really get together to record, but we're here to make a few episodes for you guys tonight.
Yeah, hopefully we can get on a battle rhythm or something going forward, but at least for now, family comes first. And
Absolutely, as it should. We haven't forgot about you, but priorities sometimes take us away from this. So we're glad to be back today, though.
Yeah, and maybe we can batch some up and not worry about it.
Absolutely.
I've got ideas for guests and things where maybe we can host some stuff that'll shore up our backlog so that we can get a little bit more rhythm. But
as long as everyone keeps enjoying listening to us, we will keep recording.
Yeah. Anyways, we did not flesh out an idea for a topic.
We have not.
Episode,
so we'll either cut this or we'll get to hear us brainstorm for brainstorming.
Well, I was leaning towards peer pressuring you into financial independence, so that was, one of my easy topics that I can probably talk about all day.
I think that's a great one. I don't want to seem like we talk about money a lot. I don't think we do, but it is very important. It's hard to run a family, or it's even hard to run your own life in today's society without having some type of financial knowledge, and especially like financial independence, as you mentioned, where you're not constantly having to reach out to others in need of assistance from other organizations. So I think that's a great topic to discuss.
Cool. Then my first question is, what does financial independence look like to PJ?
Well, financial independence is drinking this delicious Samuel Adams Golden Pilsner that was given to me by Steven so that I didn't have to pay for it now. I would say my idea of financial independence would be having the know-how, the savviness, and also implementing the skill set to create a financial safety net such that, as I mentioned, you're not constantly requiring handouts. You're not reaching out to others saying, hey, I need an extra $50 to cover my rent. Having enough money inflowing to have that independence that you don't have to need help from other people.
Okay. Does that mean cash flow from an income or cash flow from assets, or what are you looking at there to achieve that mindset or goal?
I guess in today's society, even though both me and you, I feel like, are on the upper side of middle class in terms of our income stream, I don't know what you would mean by assets. I don't know how to create a financial cash stream from assets that I hold. So it would just be from my job.
Oh, okay. So what I mean by that is there's multiple strategies for money working for you. You can do it based on capital gains, dividend income, real estate, or corporate ownership. And so you get a little bit of that with being in an ESOP company. You're owning a company that's producing a good or a service, and it's cash flowing into an asset for you that'll keep growing and appreciating.
But that would be a future...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one day financial independence looks like that asset pays off in dividends or capital gains, and you can slowly take from it without having to actually work a job and earn an income.
Yeah, okay. I see what you mean then.
So
everything in terms of your income streams, even if it's like future retirement savings that you can't access yet, you still consider to be part of like a financial independence.
Yeah. So the way I view it is I don't have to earn an income from labor. I can earn an income from something I've invested in, and that makes me independent from any one individual sort of thing. That's how I see financial independence.
No, I would agree, and we can certainly get more in depth than that. I think a lot of people, at least from my understanding, probably don't have the retirement savings, the 401ks, the ESOP accounts that they probably should in order to make it to that point. Right. But as I brought up, I don't want to be in a position where my only source of income as a retiree is through some type of government program such as Social Security, which, in my personal opinion, will not exist when I'm that age.
Yeah. I do not calculate Social Security into my retirement either, but in the sense that, the voting block's always the older generations, I think there's always going to be some form of Social Security, whether it's the form we have now or like a universal basic income or something. But yeah, I don't, it's better to not put your faith in the government side and have yourself set up for success in your own assets than to bank on that. And then if that exists when you're there, it's a plus up. You can use that for vacations or whatever.
And that's a good point, but I also have to bring up there may be some listeners, especially if you are a single income household, your spouse may not have a job, and if you don't have an income source right now, you're not putting anything into Social Security. You may not be putting
Yeah.
anything into retirement. So those are also things that you have to think about. Your financial independence is tied to your family. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
So it's not your personal financial independence, but rather like your family.
Yeah. Yeah. I would make sure if any of those individuals are watching or not watching, we don't have video right now, listening, to make sure your spouse has at least a Roth IRA opened up that you're contributing the max to every year if you can. Because if they're not working, but you're working and you're earning enough income to cover both Roth IRAs, then you can have a spousal Roth IRA and they'll be tied to your income. So then you can put in double what you would normally put in with only a single income earner.
They say that's something good that I myself did not know about. And if I had had a little more time to prepare, I would have tried to give a couple facts and figures to our listeners. We could actually look this up, but I'm willing to bet that it's as high as 30 or 40% of people who are in like the age 30, 40, and 50 range that have zero retirement savings.
Yeah, so I watch a lot. This is why I wanted the topic, because I'm well prepared for,
Well, give me the
because I
facts then.
listen to plenty of financial podcasts and stuff. I don't know if I've seen the statistics of zero income in or assets in retirement, just averages. The scary fact was that 50 to 60 range only had like, what was the average? It was like 70K in retirement or something like that. And it's like all those people, like the average obviously is going to be dragged down by really low, but you got to think of the upper middle classes probably, or even like really rich people are dragging it up. But I think the
Can they truly
medians,
drag it up if there's a cap on how much you can put into your 401ks?
yeah, I don't know what those statistics looked at in particular. I think it was just a survey on that one. It was like a Forbes survey or something like that. But yeah, they look across the whole net worth of someone, but maybe it was only in retirement accounts. Who knows?
Yeah, and that makes me sad how our society has really set itself up. We could have had a utopia, I've heard people say, but instead we got racism and credit scores. Uh, Most people, I would say, if they even had 70,000 saved up in retirement based on the median income of average households, I mean, that's better than nothing.
Yeah,
It's hard to save up a lot of money when you're only pulling in $40,000 a year.
right. Yeah, that's a tricky situation. I think we touched on it a little bit in the past too. Is if we were in that boat, could you even save for retirement? You're almost wholly
You're in a
dependent
survival mode,
on Social Security
Yeah, the
and
paycheck to paycheck mindset, and not
yeah,
necessarily mindset, just reality of I can't afford to put in 6% gross into a retirement account
right.
because I need that extra money to buy diapers, or I need that extra money to
Yeah.
buy gas as it is right now.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if every employee does it or employer does it, but I do appreciate the ones that do safe harbor contributions where they force you to have 3% into a 401k like just from the company. I don't know what the statistics are on how many companies do that, but they'll put 3% of your salary away in a 401k and they get tax breaks for it and stuff.
No, that's
And
the first
so,
time I've heard of that either. This is my fifth company I've now worked for, and I would say out of those five, zero have done that. So,
well, we need more companies to step up. Yeah, you would hope that, we live in an engineering field, so they get their talent from offering benefits. Hey, we'll match 12% or we'll match 5% or like the standard when we were entering was what 6% ish or something.
Yeah, probably around
I
that.
think some offered 3, some offered 6, but you got like, different benefits depending. Now it's like I've seen so many companies, at least in our town, like trying to push it even farther and be like 15 and 20
Oh wow.
just to get the talent because it's getting pretty savage out there.
That's good that these companies are starting to try and compete with each other to retain that talent. I just, like I said, I feel for these organizations and people that don't have access to
Stuff like that.
company matches or anything. But you did mention the Roth IRAs or the, I know there's a
You
term.
got traditional IRAs
Yeah,
and Roth
traditional
IRAs.
IRA. Maybe you can give our listeners like a breakdown on what that is.
Yeah, so it's an independent retirement account, and you have the traditional version, which acts as like a traditional 401k. You can put money in, and it gives you a tax break as long as you're not earning over a certain income threshold. And then you got your Roth IRA, which is the preferred one, especially if you're lower income. You put the money in and it grows. Make sure you invest it. Don't just put the money in. The second step is investing it in something like the S&P 500 if you have faith in America's stock market. And that'll grow. And then when you do choose to retire after 59 and a half or later, you can pull it out tax-free, all of it, like as much as you want. And it's like one of the best. There's a reason they limit you at $7,500 a year to put into those accounts because they want that capital gains tax back, right? So they're not gonna let you put in like everything you can possibly put in, and then 50 years from now just start taking it out. There are, for higher income people, you can get it into that bucket with paying taxes and stuff, and those are more advanced strategies. But the independent retirement Roth IRA, I'd encourage everyone to make it a life goal to every year max out the 7,500 in that Roth IRA because it's yours and you have every asset class you can think of in it. And they're trying to introduce private equity in them now, which is kind of BS. I don't recommend anybody do that because you'll lose all your money, maybe, question mark.
Sounds like cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a little bit better than cryptocurrency, but not by much. But yeah, Roth IRAs. Put your money in, max it out every year, and you'll have a decent path to retirement, and the government can't take that money from you.
Okay, so from what I've gathered thus far, your idea of financial independence mostly stems from having that financial independence after you have completed like your quote working cycle in today's capitalistic society. How do you feel regarding financial independence as you are today? How do you either have like a small savings account? Do you have a little safe where you keep a couple $100 in a true emergency? Like, what do you
uh,
do in situations like right now, not necessarily saving for years to come?
yeah, so for me, that all comes down to I live under a forced scarcity mindset where I make sure I'm contributing 25% to retirement and then the other my budget's the other 75%. If we can't live off the 75%, then we're doing something wrong kind of thing. And so as my financial independence right now is as long as we can live off that 75%, I know we're set because the 25% is going towards the future. That's what I do with that 75% is allocate it to what we need to our needs, and anything left over is wants. So a good rule of thumb that people give to enjoy financial independence at this age and going through the messy middle and stuff is like 50, 30, 20 is what a lot of people do. 20% saving for the future, 30% on wants, 50% on needs. I'm a bit more aggressive on that because Catherine wants a luxurious retirement. So we try and go 25 and 25 and then 50. And so you think about it, you try and control in your needs category. You got housing, food, and utilities. And then that's about it for us for needs, right? So housing, transportation usually. Might be
Ed-
cheaper if you're
education,
one
because
place
if you go
around.
to private schools,
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a want in my category, I
Okay,
believe,
all right.
because public school and homeschool are available. So basically, I have to get a bigger income to be able to fit private school in that 30 or the 30% wants or 25% wants become all private school, and then we don't get to go on vacations and things, or our vacations are extremely stymied or whatever. But that's kind of like a edge rule of thumb thing for me. Like, as long as I have an income that can support that lifestyle and you can adjust it, luckily, for lifestyle creep that way. Like, I get a big raise or I get a big bonus. Like, what do I do with it? Well, I do my 25, 25, 50. Like, I'm not going to let lifestyle creep unless if, like, I'm guaranteed to be at this income now. Okay, let's reassess the wants and needs category, right? Because then your needs might go down percentage of your income. So then you might have more room for wants, or you can push more into savings, sort of thing.
Well, I don't know if I speak for all of our listeners, but I would say your mindset is, as you mentioned, aggressive, and I cannot believe that the majority of the country is able to do that. So, congratulations, Stephen, that you are in that
Yeah.
position. But I myself am not putting in 25% towards retirement.
Well, for me, once we went down to a single income, I'm personally only putting in 10%. And then with the company, like ESOP stuff, it equates to 25% of my income,
Okay.
usually standard. So,
So it's not you personally putting in
right.
25% of your gross income into some type of retirement account. You're counting like the matching
Right.
values.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, all
yeah.
right. That makes a little bit more sense.
Now, when we were dual income, I forced us into both our incomes being 25%, and then the matching was just bonus. And that's how we set ourselves up for really good success. But going down to a single income, that's why I'm talking about adjusting needs and wants and everything. So I had to go down to counting the company matches and stuff and benefits, and then that allows me to say, hey, my savings is now at 25%. I can use that single income buckets to fulfill the wants and needs a little bit better.
Okay.
So crank it down a little bit so I can crank up other areas from my income rather than essentially when we had two incomes, crank up the savings a ton and then almost equivalently for the wants and needs was a single income, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think that from what I've gathered from this is financial independence is definitely like something that each individual has to go through, and not one solution is going to be the best for every
Oh,
person.
yeah.
I don't think that I could personally do that, but everyone's situation is different, and everyone also considers their wants and their needs different. So
Oh, yeah.
while some people might say that a need is your super basics, such as having rent or a mortgage and your utilities, I think things like internet and Netflix access, because I have children, are like that. That can't go away. Those are now technically needs. They're not wants anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, you can live in the woods and spend nothing, but how much are you going to be able to like survive in a modern age to so it's like given everybody that's why they call it personal finance. There's only some rules in finance that plays to every individual. The rest is like ways and scales of what you want. Like I said, Catherine wants a more luxurious retirement where we can one day potentially own a beach house and live there and live off our income. If we wanted to go, buy a house in, a smaller town and just do small town stuff and enjoy the backyard and hunting and stuff, then that's good. Like, you can hunt and get your own food and grow crops and things like that. And that's going to mean maybe half of what we need to save. So,
yeah,
whatever your fancy is, that's what you want to gear towards. And I think a good philosophy I've encountered is knowing your number. So you can take some generalizations in this, but if you know, hey, I have an income of $5,000 a month, that's what I want to withdraw in retirement, then what do I need to save and have a nest egg of when I retire to pull out $5,000 a month. And so you just say, you can do the backwards math and say, well, I need to get to, I don't do public math, but you can get to whatever number you need and say it's $1 million withdrawing at 4% a year. And because the other rule of thumb is a 4% withdrawal rate, if you're invested in the economy, you're going to be safe to withdraw that amount every year. And then you can, if that equals $5,000 a month, then you gotta save to that number. So if
Okay.
$1 million gets you $5,000 a month with 4%, then you're golden.
And that those types of calculators are available for free to any of
Yeah.
our listeners. If you didn't know that, I know the one that I've seen before is through Fidelity, but I'm sure every brokerage available, or even just an online calculator you could find.
Or even a chat bot these days. You can ask ChatGPT, what's my number if I want to live off of this? And you can even ask it, what's the future value? So you'd want to know what it is in future dollars. So say you want to retire in 65, you'd want to tell it, I'm 20 years away from 65. What do I need when I hit 65 to survive off this income? And it'll say, well, you'll need 5 million in today's dollars or whatever. And yeah, shocking number, but just saying. What if it says you need 5 million in today's dollars? It doesn't matter what tomorrow's dollars are with inflation. Today's dollars, you need 5 million, so you can project how much you need to save to grow to that.
Okay. So we've discussed quite a bit about financial independence for you as the individual and potentially your spouse. Any tips you'd like to discuss regarding helping our children achieve that financial independence?
This is a parenting podcast.
It is.
Okay. We're getting into financial philosophy now. I don't know. Before I keep rambling, maybe you can answer the question, because I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I can keep going.
Well, at least from personal experience, just showing our children, the value of money, the value of items, so that they have that experience. But in terms of like setting them up, what I would call like a nest egg, or setting them up with like a savings account, things like that, that wasn't something that we did until both of our boys started into the workforce. They both now, one is just recently turned 21, the other is 16. They both have near full-time jobs. The 21-year-old does have a full-time job. When that occurred, we set them up with a checking and savings account, showed them the necessities of how to like run it, things like that. And then just, tried to reinforce the idea that yes, you're going to have an income stream, but don't go out and spend your first $300 check on a $300 pair of shoes.
Oh, yeah.
So more just like mindsets, but not necessarily like providing them with money to start out with.
Oh, good call. I'd probably be pretty in line with that. But you keep talking for a second while I shut this door, because I'm worried they can hear the dog whining upstairs.
Okay. I will say, and this is probably a thing of a bygone era, but at one point when I was a child, my paternal grandmother had been putting into what used to be called savings bonds. I'm not even sure if it's a thing anymore. Unfortunately, that was, in my opinion, a scam of the government, and it actually ended up losing money. So if those are still around, I highly suggest all of our listeners to avoid savings bonds.
Well, bonds will always exist. You should have gotten some guaranteed gain on a savings bond. It's probably just crappy.
Yeah, at least one I cashed in for sure. It was $100 savings bond. When I cashed it in, it was worth $97, so it lost money.
How did you let it vest over 30 years, or did you
30 years? No, I mean, we took it out when I was 18, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the way those work is they're guaranteed to make a gain over 30 years, and they're supposed to at least double in value. Really crappy savings mechanism for those type of savings bonds.
Money in 30 years?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. But if you cash it out before then, it's like not that great. And so there are other bonds like I bonds and things like that you can cash in on like during certain fluctuations in the government and stuff. But yeah, savings bonds were pretty terrible returns for sure. But it at least gives, in my mind, it gave us an opportunity to see, hey, here's a long-term investment, and I really need to take mine to the bank because I have 30-year-old bonds right now. And once it hits 30 years, it stops growing. So
Okay.
one of them's a year past 30 years, and I'm like, I'm wasting money not taking it out right now. So I
Especially
need to get to
when
the
you're in
bank.
college, it sounds like you could
Yeah,
easily reinvest that into something much
right.
more
Lucrative.
lucrative. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Or use it in the kids' swim lessons.
Yeah, that's right.
Fall into the wants category. Yeah. Yeah. So going back to kid philosophy, obviously you have older kids, so you've already gotten to teach some lessons. I'm still trying to workshop how we introduce things. So we've been going to the very basic level of give, save, spend. So teach them there's three things ultimately you can do with your money. You can give it to someone who needs it, you can save it, or you can spend it. And so anytime the kids do get money from someone, we're like, hey, what do you want to do with it? It should be one of these three things. And then whatever they choose, like we'll still take like the $10 for birthday. We'll let them do whatever they want with it, but we'll still put $10 into their 529. And so there's still some saving going on for them with their own money.
And I know you've brought this up before, but I myself have forgot. So if you want to remind our listeners, a 529, is that like a child savings account or?
That is the educational savings account for children. So when Biden was in office, he passed the Secure Act 2.0, I think it was called, which made the 529 even better. 529s, there used to be educational savings accounts, and those are going to be a thing of the past, sort of, because 529s are way more powerful. But that act that he put into place now allows, I think, up to 35 grand of the 529 to turn into a Roth IRA for the kid at 18. If they, I think it's at 18 or might be 21 or something like that, if they don't use it for educational expenses. But basically, it allows the states to run a 529 program, and you save it just like you would a 401k or HSA or a Roth IRA, but for the child. They're the beneficiary, you're the owner, and it can be used for any education expense from kindergarten to college. And they're increasing the scope as time goes on because people love them so much on what you can use it for tax-free gains. So you put in from the day they're born, because they have to have a social security number to get one, like $100 a month, and until they're 18. You can imagine what that would grow into for a college expense, and then you can use it for like trade schools and things like that. But if they don't burn out all the money, they can convert 35 grand tax free into a Roth IRA, which puts them in a really good footing too.
Oh, absolutely. I would say very, very few people in this country are probably utilizing such a thing where they can have essentially a small retirement account set up for their children by the time they turn 18.
Yeah.
So if you have the means to do that, that does sound like a great opportunity.
Yeah. And I would encourage anybody looking at these types of techniques and stuff to the best rules I've seen if you're trying to go a little bit more advanced with your finances is these guys called the Money Guys on YouTube. There's some advisors out of Nashville that came up with the philosophy, and they have a book and everything. But they came up with the nine steps, the financial order of operations, basically. And so it's like you basically aren't putting anything into a 529 until you're like in 7 or 8 of their steps. Like it's really late on your financial journey, because like in their philosophy and what I've adapted is if I'm not taken care of in retirement, my kids are taking care of me in retirement. So I need to make sure all my shit is in order. Otherwise, they're going to be dealing with it.
Oh, absolutely. And on the reverse of that, unfortunately, I've heard many stories of older generations who did not have their finances in order, had things such as reverse mortgages and stuff. And when they passed away, that burden fell to their children.
Yeah.
So anything we can do as parents to, help our children succeed in life, and if necessary, have them give us a hand when we're older, just as we gave them a hand when they were younger.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, if that's something that you've really been able to utilize, I highly suggest any of our listeners. We'll put that podcast, or sorry, that YouTube channel or that book
Yeah.
recommendation link up, and you guys feel free to check it out.
Yeah, that would be good. Those guys are great. They have some great content. There's actually another guy in my office that listens to their podcast too, and we talk about money philosophy and things like that. So they I think like step 1 is covering like your deductibles. So if you have health insurance, making sure you have enough in savings to cover any deductible that's going to happen in the course of the year. And then you get your company match as step 2 if you have one, pay off high interest debt, and then things like that. So
Yep, and
it's a pretty good system.
I doubt we have any listeners outside of the United States, but one thing I will say, mentioning about companies who do a match, or as you mentioned, maybe companies who are trying to push that threshold to a higher percentage, I've just due to the sheer extraordinary cost of healthcare in this country, a lot of companies that I've seen, while they may not have a high retirement percentage match, it's because they're offsetting that by paying a tremendous amount of money into like the yearly
Yeah.
healthcare costs for you.
Yeah, those
If you ever look at the values that you would have to pay without some type of employer sponsored healthcare, it's just unheard of.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're being laughed at by a lot of countries
Absolutely,
that
we are.
Well, that I mean, it's the same thing that ran away. Like if you don't actually use the control of the government, then things are going to run away from you, just like they did with college. They started offering federally backed loans, and all the colleges are like, oh, well, we can charge whatever we want because the federal government's backing all these loans. We might as well raise our tuition costs so we can do more. And it's like, same thing happened in the healthcare system. And, oh, the government's offering healthcare now, so we can. The only way it works with a government owning a healthcare system is if they are the healthcare system, because they're the single payer and they can. I mean, you can still have private industry running medical facilities, but they have to come to that single payer system to negotiate prices.
Yep.
And that's the only way you can kind of like a mix of government and private doesn't really work very well. If you had like all private with like true regulation, that would work. Or if you had all government with like single payer, that would work. But trying to do this hybrid we're in now, it just lets it run rampant.
And as you said, you can easily look at the statistics for both higher education and healthcare, and it's just an exponential curve going upwards that doesn't show any signs of slowing down. In fact, I read an article the other day. As many of our listeners know, both myself and Stephen live in the state of Alabama. Well, the University of Alabama is about to increase their tuition rates.
Yeah.
There's just no slowing it down right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's crazy. All the pay for football and stuff, right? And what are you really getting out of the education? At least the education portion of it, right? Like it's good. Don't get me wrong, but like at least in my viewpoint, if you don't have a plan for a degree, you're just getting a degree. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does. At least it does to me.
Yeah. So we could go into that further if we have comments on that's kind of what you want to instill in your kid. Like I didn't really have a plan for the degree and I just got lucky.
Well, I'm glad
I
to
participated in I participated in groups and made networks and kind of fell into the path that I fell into, but it's much easier if you have a plan.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because that's another aspect about financial independence that I would like to talk about. I believe that our generation was pushed to go into college, and I think I've discussed this before. Millennials are the most educated generation, but in terms of life satisfaction, pay, things like that, it's just not there. And younger generations, I believe, are starting to see that college enrollments are not as high as they were for our generation. And it's because if you want to achieve true financial independence, the fact of the matter is there are some degrees that just aren't worth as much as others. And there's some other options that you can take outside of college that can give you that financial independence if you make it work for you. Which is something that we discussed with our boys. And our oldest, like I said, did not have any interest to go to college. He's now on a technical track, having his company pay for certifications. And I fully supported that, even though myself, I went to college. I wasn't going to pressure him to do it, just knowing how the world works nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you have a plan and you're executing it, go for it. Like, I mean, this generation's coming up and they're resourceful, right? Like
You have to
they're
be.
they're learning that you can make money outside of a traditional path in technology and well, really technology and society are giving paths that had never been created before on how to make money. And it may not be easy. It's probably going to be a harder path than we walked, but I mean, college wasn't easy either.
No, no,
So,
but no, I understand what you mean. But
like,
you're right. Technology has opened up a world of new avenues that did not exist before. There are actually plenty of podcasters that make a substantial living just from their show. We've heard
yeah.
of successful influencers, YouTubers. I'm not going to mention OnlyFans, but
Yeah. Well, you
technology
did.
has certainly opened doors and potential possibilities that I do think the younger generations are taking advantage of. That I'm not saying our generation doesn't, but it just wasn't as prevalent when we were
Yeah.
younger.
We didn't have the option. College was still a very lucrative path at the time, and still is, especially if you want to go down the road of being a rocket scientist or a doctor or a lawyer or one
Oh
of the
yes,
other
no. Like I
ones
said,
that are,
there are
like make
certain
sense, but
degrees that just tend to have a more
or a
lucrative
teacher,
career path
yeah.
than other options.
And the since we were talking statistics a little bit earlier, do you know what I think maybe one of the careers in the top 5 of like retirement satisfaction is?
No,
Teachers.
really.
Yeah. It's because the pensions. Most teachers, they don't realize it while they're going through the grind, but when they get over to retirement, they're like, oh, that pension's actually pretty good. Um, I don't know if that's true for all states, but I know that it's like retirement millionaires tend to be like nurses, doctors, teachers, and engineers or something like that. And then probably like just, billionaires or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the fifth one is. But like the top 5 are those. And it's like because teachers just have those massive pensions in most states that provide for them in retirement. So they're able to save their money in other ways.
No, I didn't know that. Well, I really hope that is the case because I've known quite a few teachers, and though they haven't hit retirement, to me that just seems like a very hard job, and
Oh, yeah.
I wish them all the best. And if they're able to make themselves a good retirement through use of a pension afterwards,
Yeah.
all more power to them.
Yeah, so I would, if I was a teacher, I would not go somewhere that didn't have a pension. But that, well, we'll see. We do go to private school. I don't know what their situation is, so no teachers, please quit the private school sector. Hopefully they're getting. I don't see all the behind the scenes, but I know the salaries of teachers suck big time, and they need to be able to survive in the real time and not just have a nice back end benefit sort of thing. So
Hmm.
there's a balance. And I mean that's how most companies have gone, right? Like companies used to take care of you. If you worked there 30 years, you had a massive pension and you could just like live without a problem. Now it's like all on the individual since our generation entered the workforce and we have to figure it out ourselves instead of just being loyal to a company. We've got to job hop and get maximized salaries and things like that. So incentives change over
Oh,
generations
it
and
certainly
like
does. And as you said, apparently there may be an up and coming trend where companies recognize that and are trying to uh, push upon the employees. Hey, here is a certain amount of your salary we're automatically dedicating into going into retirement. Uh, just on the off chance that that individual doesn't do that, but just in the hopes that they have at least something when they retire.
right. And I see the ESOP trend being another pension, right? So the company's trying to take care of you in the long run by giving you profit sharing into the company. Um, and then when you exit, you have this nice next nest egg that you can take into retirement.
Yep, and
It's
I do
just like
like
a
that. I
pension.
think that I've seen that more and more often as well. I think it tends to promote a little bit more loyalty. You personally feel like you are a part owner of the company. You want to see the company succeed, which is a little different than some of these companies, say the Fortune 500 companies that, yeah, you may have options to buy stock, but then you're really working in the end for the shareholders of the company. You don't really feel as much loyalty or brand loyalty, if you will.
Right. It's still good, especially the ones that like their ESPPs are like you put in 6% to the company and we'll give you 12 or something. Those do exist, so it's like still good. You're getting double your worth, sort of thing. But yeah, you're right. You don't have ownership plan. You have participation plan, and you're like, well, I can still leave if I wanna. Yeah, there's so much we could talk about financial independence, but I think that's the cursory shot across the bow. Unless you have more to say.
I would say this would probably be your topic. I can see your brain. Like I know there's more ideas that you would like to discuss. So you let me know if there's anything else that we should talk about, or if we need to make this into a 2-part, 3-part, 6-part
6-part
series.
series. Yeah, you can talk so much about finances. I think we covered financial independence, though. It's they have. You've heard of the FIRE movement, right? Oh, okay.
No, I have not heard of
The
that.
FIRE
If there's a
movement.
fire in the building, I'm moving myself out.
So the FIRE movement is a bunch of individuals that said, I want to retire early. So financial independence, retire early. And so their philosophy is I'm going to save 50% of my salary and get to a number by like 45 that I know I'm comfortable living off of because I'm already only living off of 50% of my salary. And then I'm just going to exit the workforce and do my own thing. I follow more of a, what some group deemed we don't like FIRE, we like the FINE movement, which is financial independence next endeavor. So I'm looking at it and I'm gonna grind to a number. Once I get to that number, I'll be satisfied, and then I can keep working for my company, or I can go all in on a podcast, or I can take some more risk because that number's there, or I can go all in on my kids, or like that 25% savings rate maybe diminishes to like a 10% or something to do something more if I hit that number.
Yep. I don't think I have an acronym for what I would go through, but I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. My philosophy is that we're really never guaranteed tomorrow. We could be taken up this afternoon. So
Mm-hmm.
while I may not be putting in a very large percentage into retirement compared to others, it's because that extra income take home, we're using it on my family today and now. So, quite a few weekend vacations. If the kids need something, we're going to get it for them, things like that. So, while I may not be thinking about 30, 40 years into the future, it's only because we're not guaranteed that.
Yeah. I just encourage anyone out there that what if that future comes? Yeah, make sure that you pull your parachute and make sure it's working, your oxygen mask before you worry about other people, I guess. But that's all I would say on that like
I wouldn't say it's a philosophy. That's
yeah,
just it's just a
just my
reality.
yeah. Yeah, so there's a healthy balance.
There is.
If 25 per like to get to 25%, we didn't start there, right? Like we started at 10 and then just started adding a little bit more and a little bit more as we got raises. We didn't actually live off the raises. We just put it straight into the percent. And so you can, as long as you're on the grind and you're growing and you're earning more and you're achieving, you can get to the 25% without even realizing it.
And I think this is somewhat on the lines of financial independence, but you mentioned like on the grind. You also mentioned about job hopping, and I just wanted to point out to any of our listeners, uh, please don't feel free to stick with one company unless you absolutely love it and they're treating you well. At least my personal experience in today's society is if you want to continually grow your income stream, grow your benefits, it's going to come from looking at other options. So don't settle unless you just absolutely love what you're doing, because there's always going to be something better out there and maybe a better fit for you too.
I agree. Yeah, if a company's treating you well and they're giving you what you need and paying you the market standard, then it's worth staying. If there's always grass greener other places, even though it might be scary. But yeah, any parting thoughts before we maybe go on to another topic?
No, just any of our listeners, feel free if you have any comments, anything you want to say regarding this podcast or any of the ones we've done, please feel free to reach out to us on our socials. We'd love to hear from you. Love to see what you have and discuss it, anything.
And any financial topics I like to dig into. If you couldn't tell by this episode, it's one of my favorite things to digest and learn from.
No, I feel like I actually came away from this podcast learning something, so thank you, Stephen.
No problem. All right, catch you next time.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Dads Discuss.
Please like and subscribe wherever you are listening.
Also, comment any topics you would like us to discuss and share this with your friends and family.
Finally, if you would like to be on the podcast or discuss any topics, please reach out via our contact information below.